Hey everybody. I just wanted to do the same kind of thing that I've been doing for the past couple weeks, and that is working through a few of these problems that we're going to be doing this week. So for the last couple weeks, we were doing the rules of implication, right? So for 7.1, we had modus ponens, modus tollens, hypothetical syllogism, and disjunctive syllogism. Then last week we added four more of those rules of implication, which were constructive dilemma, simplification, conjunction, and addition. And now we're getting four more, but they're of a different sort. These are rules of replacement, how you can take something that's given to you and replace it with something logically equivalent to help you derive more steps in the proof. So let's go to the exercise set. Okay, let's do a few of these together. So we're adding four new rules. Don't forget that you should get the rules from here, right? Print them, uh, hand write them. Always keep them next to you as you're doing these proofs so you can train your brain to recognize these patterns. And it gets easier and easier as you go. But no doubt, now we've got 12 rules to work with for each of these proofs. So things are obviously getting more complex, right? All right, let's do this thing. We've got two premises and the conclusion is P or Q. So what should we do first? Well, this first line here looks like I could do something with it. Actually, you know what? I'm going to change my mind. I'm thinking through these as we go so you can just kind of hear my thought process. Let's start here, line 2. Okay? Because I can look at line 2 and see, you know what? De Morgan's rule can be used to unpack this a little bit. So in other words, if I'm given well, it's not the case that M and N, I can replace that with something logically equivalent. And namely, that is this, not M or not N. And then that would be 2 and De Morgan's, and then you check. So if it lets, again, you probably noticed this by now, but if it lets you move ahead, that means you did a logically appropriate thing here, right? So let's just talk this out for a minute. What is this saying? Well, it isn't the case that you have both M and N together, right? Well, that's the same thing as saying, so either it's not M or it's not N. Same exact thing, but now it's in a different form, right? And now that you have this third premise that you got from the second one, demorganizing it, look around and think about what else you could do. Well, I'm seeing right here that I can use that we've got a not M or not N here. Okay. And we've got a not M and a not N here joined by this and, right? These two claims here. I see that I can go, okay, that lends itself to the constructive dilemma rule, right? So I'm going to go, so think, I'll talk this through. This premise up here is saying, if you don't have M, then you don't, excuse me, if you don't have M, then you've got P. And also, if you don't have N, then you've got Q. And then third premise says, well, it's either not M or not N. Therefore, P or Q. And that's a 1 and 3 constructive dilemma. And then I'm going to submit. Bam. Okay. I'm going to do 3 of these. So let's skip to number 5. Oh, it's early in the morning for this. Okay. I'm looking at what I have right now as is. There's nothing I can really do for this. So what I'm going to do is, because I'm happy that I've got this not C by itself. So I'm going to tinker a little bit. I'm going to look at the first premise. I'm going to say, you know what? This one lends itself to a replacement, right? We can use associativity on line 1 in order to get just as if that's just regrouping this, because you've got the same, you've got Q or not, or excuse me, you've got Q or L or C. So we can regroup these to go like this. Q or L, close parentheses, or C. And that was 1, and that's called associativity. Okay. All right. Now, what can we do? Well, I see that this is now saying, hey, either you got Q or L or you got C. Well, you don't have C, therefore you're left with this. But here's the rub, and it's aggravating, right? You have to put this in the full-on proper form before you can use disjunctive syllogism on this, meaning you have to get this C first in the lineup. And that is called, that's just a simple rule that's called, what the heck is it called? Commutivity. All right, so so we're gonna go C or Q or L, close parentheses, and that's just replacing, that's just another way to say this using line 3 and commutivity. Okay, bam. Now we can use disjunctive. See, isn't that aggravating? Now we can use disjunctive syllogism on 2 and 4 because we've got the C in the right place. Okay, so let's do, that leaves us with Q or L, and we use 2 and 4 disjunctive syllogism. So now we're close to the conclusion, right? We need L or Q. We've got Q or L. So we just have to replace Q or L with what? L or Q. L or Q. And that was 5 commutivity. And submit. Bam. All right. So keep that kind of stuff in mind. Um, just those little adjustments you have to make using like commutivity and stuff in order to get the premises in their correct form to apply the formula to. All right, let's do one more. Let's just do 10. All right. So 2 premises, conclusion is A. Let's see what we can do here. Somehow it'd be cool if we could get G by itself, so we could modus ponens this, and then eventually get A by itself, which is the conclusion. So that's another thing, is that always look for where you need to get and see what might be. That those are the 2 approaches, right? Look to see where you want to be, and then try to figure out how you can get there most simply. Or if you can't see that, just start working on the darn thing. Be like, all right, here's my rules. What the heck can I do? So, all right, with line 1, I know that this, the way it looks, is almost in a decent shape to use the rule called distribution, but it's not quite there yet. All right, so I'm going to get it in the proper form to do that, which means I need the G in the first place here, right? So let's do that. Let's commute the second part of the first premise. So we've got, leave the first part alone, G and H, close parentheses, then or. Now swap these out. I hope this is right. G and M, close parentheses. See what I did there? Just got it so the G's in the same position, which is getting it ready to be able to use the distribution rule. Hopefully that is correct. But so that was one commutivity. We just commuted the second part of this first premise. Let's see if it took it. Good. All right, now look at your distribution rule. So you've got, so what this premise says at this point is either you have G and H or you've got G and M. What can you replace that with that's logically equivalent? Well, it would go G, which is the given, and let's H or M, close. See, let's just talk it through it. This is saying, hey, guess what? Either you got, I'll put some words in here. Either you got gophers and hamsters, or you got gophers and malamutes. Well, in either case, you got G, right? So this can turn into, well, you know you got gophers, and then you got hamsters or malamutes, whatever the heck a malamute is. So that was 3, and we used distribution. Let's see. All right, bam. Now we still can't get our conclusion, but what we can do, remember how we talked about this earlier? It'd be cool if we could get that G by itself so that we could do a modus ponens on line 2. Well, you can now using simplification. So on line 5, we're going to go G, and that was 4 simplification. Now that we have that G by itself, we can get T and A, 2 and 5 modus ponens, right? Now we're looking good. Our conclusion is A, but here's another, here where it's aggravating again. You can't just pull the A out of this claim. You have to commute it first and then pull it out when it's in the primary or the first position. Dig what I'm saying? So turn this into, replace T and A with A and T. A and T. That was a 6 commutivity. Now we can go A, 7. Where's the whole simplification? Simplification. And you don't need any more lines because there we are, A. Here we are, A. Submit. Correct. All right, everybody. If it hasn't been real up to now, it's getting real now. Please let me know if you want to Zoom or work through some of these problems. I've got a few students in this class who've taken advantage of this opportunity, and we'll just think them a few through and walk through them. And I'm happy to do it. Just let me know. Okay, everybody.